What's up, YouTube? Today, here we are on my season 3 wish list, right? This is not so much just my opinion. It's, I guess, an educated, based on like pros opinions, educated wish list that is kind of like a mix and mash of various opinions and like, suggestions I've heard over the months, right? And stuff I agree with, which is most of what people say. I don't have, as a worst player, I don't have much of a say in it. But I definitely think, I tried to be the most reasonable possible, at least in my opinion, right? And I think the way I've set it up might be pretty reasonable as something Capcom might or might not do. Depends. To be honest, I'm a bit doubtful that they'll actually do what I'm suggesting. I mean, what I'm suggesting, but like even just in general, I kind of see it as a tough occurrence. But anyway, without further ado, let's talk about what system mechanics. Obviously, we're talking about the change, right? And these are the 5 system mechanics that come to mind when people say, when people complain, right? Throw loops, self-explanatory. Perfect parry, right? Kind of the antithesis to throw loops, right? When you don't throw, you strike. And what's the perfect counterplay against that? Well, perfect parry. Draw raw drive rush in neutral. Pain in the ass, right? Drive reversal. This is more coming from the point of view to buff this mechanic. And drive regen, right? Drive regeneration. Because, let's be honest here, system mechanics are really fucking strong in this game. They really are. And just drive mechanics in general, I mean. And they kind of just homogenize the entire cast. It's kind of boring to look at. I mean, not so much look at, I guess, but play. It feels very samey at times, right? Like, especially the Shotos, like they all play the same. So yeah, let's get into it. How would I change this? Throw loops. How would I change them? Well, remove them, obviously. Like that's kind of the whole point. But how would we remove them? Because I've heard various suggestions, and one that that I personally haven't heard. I mean, I haven't really investigated too much. Is to just have every character that has a throw loop uh, just be a tiny bit farther away, or a tiny bit less plus, right? It's just either or, depends. From what they currently have, right? What would this achieve compared to, say, for example, Broski's suggestion was to just have every character basically have Chun Oki, right? He said every character should just be, on a throw, they should just be plus 10 at Chun range. Basically, just every character is like that has this Oki, right? But in my opinion, that is not the best way of going about it, because a lot of characters have stuff that's unique to them on their own Oki, and like a throw loop is kind of extra, right? For example, Ed has the infamous meaty flicker thing on throw, but he can also just walk up and dash. If you make his Oki, his throw Oki just like this plus 10, he can't get this, right? Like, he loses stuff because you're just homogenizing the throw situation. What I'm suggesting is just have him be a bit farther away. Like, okay, maybe here he's hella plus. I didn't even know he was this plus. But because he gets this, yeah, fair enough. Maybe might be a special case. He might need some minus frames, like less plus frames, or just be farther enough. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this still connects from all the way back here, right? But maybe not. Well, almost. We can just have him be farther away. Or other characters, for example, like Jerry here, right? She has a dash. She's another character with a dash throw loop, right? Obviously, there didn't execute it properly. But if she were to be farther away and say like at this range, that's outside of throw throw range. But she would still get this, right? You know. Well, you know, I'm not Capcom. They'll probably design this properly, but that would be, in my opinion, a better way to remove the problem of throw loops, right? And really, that's the suggestion I'll showcase in the case of like characters that have the simply walk up throw loop, right? For example, Ken, right? He can do this, right? If he were to be farther away, he wouldn't be able to walk in fast enough, and that would remove the problem, right? Throw loops are really strong, and honestly, they're quite stupid. And like just allowing this, if he started like back here, he'd still be able to get a meaty heavy punch, for example. Still be able to do whatever this was, right? That's, you can do +7, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he'd be more plus actually, because he starts from farther away. Or maybe less, because it wouldn't be as meaty. Well, whichever the case is, you know, that's, in my opinion, you know, the best way, I guess, to fix throw loops. Make each character be a bit farther away on throw. Now, the second point that I've heard, and that I also agree with, is that on punish counter, you should be able to get a throw loop, right? That seems fair enough, right? They guess with parry, which obviously beats strikes. You should be rewarded with being able to do a throw loop, and you know, you could simply just remove this extra pushback, I guess. That's that really. So yeah, I would say that's probably, you know, a good way of dealing with this. And about characters still being able to throw loop with drive rush, frankly, I'm not against that. So I think it's fair, especially considering that with the other changes, you know, with the other stuff that's gonna come with drive regen, you know, spoiler, it's gonna be lower. It would definitely kind of like make that even more expensive, right? In the grand scheme of things. So if PC throw, you get a throw loop in the Kona, obviously. I mean, even the mid-screen situations, they can stay as they are, to be fair. So yeah, drive rush throw loops can stay in. So that's throw loops. You know, it was pretty quick. The problem is, obviously, without throw loops, perfect parry is going to be stronger, and it already is a very strong mechanic. I was watching Red Bull Kumite, right, last weekend, and there were a lot of perfect parries. I mean, Ending Walker, obviously Kakaru, both players that are known for their perfect parries, and it's just kind of cringe. I'm gonna be honest. It's just very cringe looking at that, just seeing offense going, and then you perfect parry a jab, and now the side switch. It's just, you know. But how do you fix that? How do you make it less strong? So, you know, this is something that, I mean, kind of, I've heard less of a suggestion. You know, like I haven't heard of what I'm about to say as a suggestion as much. And so I'm not too sure if it would nerf it enough, but I think it would be a pretty nice way of solving this. And it's to kind of remove the what's it called? The super flash, I guess, not super flash, but the freeze, right? On perfect parries, on lights and mediums, or just lights, or like have different amount of screen freeze for them. For example, lights shouldn't have any. It should be like projectiles, you know, you get the animation and you have to OS your punish, right? For example, if you're in the Kona and someone does this, you need to OS the back throw, right? You can't just visually confirm what happened. And what this leads to, other than, for example, you know, jabs further away just not being easily punishable, is kind of a mind game as well, right? Because like maybe the opponent knowing that you might go for perfect parry close up, other than throw, you know, as an option to beat that, obviously, or just shimmying and visually confirming the perfect parry, they could also meaty back here, and if you OS'd the back throw, you just whiff the throw in front of his face, right? and that's an extra layer, right? So maybe them being aware of this risk makes them OS the perfect parry with just a normal button punish, right? Which for some characters might still lead to a side swap. For example, Ken, right? He'd still be able to say OS into just run stop. I mean, not run stop, run Dragon Lash. But for others, it might not. They might just get, Oki mid screen, right? So this would add, in my opinion, an extra layer. And I say for lights and mediums because generally those are the moves that aren't very much reactable, right? So it kind of makes sense that like, what is this? Why do you have like 2 seconds, right, to visually confirm? That makes no sense. But for moves that, for example, special moves, right, in my opinion, that does make sense. Like that's fair, right? If a Ken's doing something like this, right? Imagine unblock, right? And perfect parry, you should be able to visually confirm it, even though you probably already know, like you visually did it, but it just kind of like makes sense, and it also keeps the perfect parry visual, which obviously they've worked hard on implementing. So that's, in my opinion, a very nice way to do it. As for there's also the scaling. Oh, that's another thing I haven't actually added here. Damage. But I'll get to that. So for now, lights and mediums, in parentheses, because I'm unsure about those. I guess, yeah, no, I'll commit. Light and mediums have no screen freeze. You need to OS the punish option. Heavies and specials, maybe not specials. Maybe the specials depends like from which to which. Maybe for the special, it's manually adjusted. It stays as is, right? So that was kind of, in my opinion, really alleviate the problem, because it's especially annoying when it's like just light, and then it gets perfect parried in like a light string. It's kind of stupid, right? So that's for the actual perfect parry. Secondly, for the actual punishes, right? Because as people have said, the super scaling is ridiculous, right? Like you can just suffer a 40% combo on a perfect parry on a jab, right? Which obviously, the first fix would kind of make it harder for that to happen. But if they OS, and for example, as Jamie, your best starter would be like heavy punch, I imagine. I don't actually know what Jamie does, but it's still a heavy starter, right? He would still be able to probably get a really good combo with CA and everything, right? So the scaling on the supers should still have the 50% scaling, right? Because perfect parry, the way it works is it has 50% extra scaling to everything you do, right? Except for supers, which have their min scaling. In my opinion, the min scaling should be scaled, should not be on top of the 50%. It should still have the 50%. So, level 3s, just, the SA1 super scaling doesn't avoid the perfect parry 50% scaling. So the minimum scaling would just go down to 15, 20, and 25, right? Pretty simple fix. It would, really make it a lot less damaging, a lot less volatile. And that's that for perfect parry. Next bullet point, drive rush. Our favorite mechanic. Even then again, another, stuff I've heard from pros and stuff I've experienced myself. Obviously, this is also something, the poor lower MRP players experience. Drive rush is very annoying, and it's very hard to check. And they have the perfect parry OS, to avoid the throw. Then all this leads to one place, and that is drive rush should be punish counter state. Okay, it's as simple as that. Drive rush should be punish counter state, and it should definitely, first off, for some characters, you know, like Geef, it doesn't really represent, like, it doesn't look like the hitbox. There's this kind of like, it needs to be adjusted, but that's, very character specific. I feel like it should have at least, an extra added hurt box to every move. Like, I don't know if they can do it like that, or maybe it just kind of adds an extra something. But like, it should be easy to check the drivers. I mean, not easy, but like, it should be relatively doable. It shouldn't be a very as ambiguous as it is now because it's it's kind of cringe neutral scape that's like universal. It's not unique, right? You already have this, which is another extremely universal thing, right? Which is, it's fine. Like, I guess you have that. But like, do we need that? Like, it makes the game harder to balance. It makes the game harder to balance around, the uniqueness of characters, right? In my opinion, when you have this thing that everyone can do, it just, it makes characters, I guess, weaknesses and strength less emphasized, right? When everyone can just do this and get in, or I guess this and whatever and get in, it just kind of lame, right? So that's the first thing, right? Should be punish counter state. Buttons should have an extended hurt box. Even on startup. What's the other change? And that's the infamous. I don't have Bison, so I can't show driver scissor kicks, but the infamous drive rush into special move to slow momentum, right? That's another thing that's extremely stupid, and it's kind of like unnecessary. Like, why is this a thing? Why can't you cancel the drive rush into a special? It doesn't even get the extra properties, so it's like it doesn't, and it's not even really used for anything except for, I guess, this and like Geef doing drive rush SPD. Which, grapplers, I'm sorry, I guess, you have to get more. I can't do SPD. Right? But even then, right, bruh. Well, anyway. How would I fix this? Just to make it so that the special moves, right, they don't come out on the same timing as the buttons do, right? Because there's already multiple cancel timings for drive rush, right? You have the initial timing after the 3 parry frames plus the 8 frames of the drive rush, right? You have the button cancel. And coincidentally, that's also the same timing as special moves. But you have also another timing, which is the non-offensive, I guess, cancels, right? Like jump or block even. And we can make it so specials come out at that timing. Or maybe add a different timing that's a bit later, right? Because like, say, you did drive rush from here, and the special move came out here, right? You'd still be able to check, and even if it doesn't check because you did it too soon or something, this would be less likely to punish it, They'd have to use a quicker move, which obviously would then, be minus on block and whatnot. This is -8, right? And Akuma's thing. So that would make that less frustrating. Now, there's obviously going to be Luke still in the game, right, with Suppressor. But, the extended hurt box hopefully will do the job, right? This is still going to be in the game. But, this is universal mechanics we're talking about. So, special moves out of drive rush should come out at a later timing, kind of like jumps or blocking, right? So that's that for drive rush. Honestly, I don't have much else to say. This would definitely make it a lot less common and a lot easier to check, and it just kind of bring neutrals and footsies back to the game as people enjoy looking at. Now, drive reversal. this is something that I personally can't attest to too much because I've only played DP characters, to be honest. But you know, I'll just pair it with other people say and have it just be a bit faster, right? Especially the block stun one, right? Because the drive reversal and wake up, it's 18 frames, I believe. Oh wait, no, it's 20 frames, and on wake up it is 18, and on block it's 20. But the thing is that obviously here if you do that, but if you were to delay it, it makes it, you know, it doesn't make any sense that it's different, right? So I would definitely say, and make them maybe a bit faster, you know? Make it so you can't bait drive reverse on wake up with anything but lights. So for example, make it like 14 frames, right? Because like Jury can literally do a meaty standing medium punch and still bait drive reversals, right? Like I don't know what the timing is, so I might mess it up. Right? Yeah, that was that. Perfectly illustrated. And I had plenty of leeway. I have 4 extra frames. Like I could have literally fucked it up. I think you... Okay, wait. Hold up, wait. I think you can... Bruh. Dude, hello? Okay, maybe you can't get it here. But, you know, it's still really easy to actually bait with the medium, which in my opinion shouldn't be the case. Like, if it's a light, like, it's fine. Especially because you don't really get pressure from lights in this game. Oh, shit. Like, that's fine, but mediums that are plus on block, that you can bait drive reversal with that's not okay. Drive reversal on block slash wake up should be the same startup. Startup should be reduced to be 15, 14 frames maybe? 14 frames, I guess? I don't know, wait, this move? Ooh, that will still make it... Should be reduced to only be safe jabbable. In my opinion, that's enough. Like, if every character can safe jab it, that would be a good change. But, you know, in exchange for making it strong, I guess faster, maybe characters shouldn't be able to get Oki, right? But I honestly, again, I'm unsure. I can't really say. Another thing I have heard that I do agree with though is that apparently there's like a lockout timing for drive reversal on multi-hit moves, right? Which doesn't allow you to drive reversal the second move, which is really evident on what character was it again? I think I saw Chris GX like show this. I don't remember which one though. I'm sorry. But yeah, basically it's really hard to drive reversal multi-hit moves. So make it so you can drive reversal multi-hit moves. And now, actually, that I think about it, back at it, there's one problem I skipped with Drive Rush, and that is the input eating on the input region, right? The thing is, that's annoying. It's annoying, right? But it's also how the game works, right? Like, you know, you have your buffer, and the screen freeze just kind of, it's still there, right? Like, it doesn't transfer what you pressed over to the next buffer, which it should do. But what it should also do is still allow you to actually like change your mind, right? Like during super freeze, you should be able to, I guess, change your mind because if you react that kind of way, you know, it makes it more forgiving. Because say you press something like on the frame of the screen freeze, and now you decide to like you react to the screen freeze, you want to check, and before you actually could, you know, fortunately, though it was kind of unlikely because probably in your head you pressed a button that didn't come out, so that what made it frustrating. But now, for example, you would be able to, you know, change, like choose either or, right? Make it so that the screen freeze doesn't eat your inputs by saving said inputs and pushing them forward in the input buffer. I guess that's the least convoluted way. I can write that you can drive reversal multi-hit moves on any hit. Drive region. Drive region. Lower it across the board. That's it, really. I wouldn't know how, to be honest. It's a touchy subject, I guess, because while it is, you know, very, you know, while the game is a lot of this, at the same time, it kind of needs to be this, or, you know, it's a strike throw game because parry exists, right? So that is one of the easy. It might just be the only real way to get in, because also very few, like, you have one plus unblock button, and usually it's a very close range one, right? It's hard to get pressure in this game without drive rush. So, you know, I would definitely say, because this is kind of boring and every character does it, to lower the drive gauge consumption for sure. But no, don't gimp it too much, right? Like nothing else, just make it a bit lower, the drive rate region, just across the board, like lower it by, I don't know, 20% or something. Like the numbers, I guess those are finicky, but you know, some suggestions I see, like on hit here, make it so it takes a lot longer to to regen the drive gauge, which I'm kind of on board with as well. Like that's fine if it's on block for drivers cancels, but at the same time, you know, it would kind of be unfair at that point to only have it on drivers cancel. You'd also need to have it on OD moves, because for some characters, you know, they can get pressure from doing this, for example. Oh fuck, wait. I mean, that doesn't work, I guess. But stuff like this, right? You know, if you only have it on drive rush cancel, kind of be, I guess, singling out just one part of the crowd that doesn't have any OD moves that are usable for pressure. So yeah, so make, I guess, on block, right? Make drive usage on block take more time to start recovering. Right now, I believe it's at like 120 frames, so like 2 seconds till it starts again. Let me put this in standard mode just to check. It does feel like 2 seconds. That's already a lot. The problem is that I think it might be faster if you... No, it's just because throws take so long. So maybe it's a problem with throws. But at the same time, if you remove the throw loops, right, this would be less of an issue, because you can't have those scenarios where, like, you know, drive rush, they get in the Kona and then you do it 15 times and you're back on the drive gauge. So I don't know. This one's iffy. And yeah, I'm not too sure. I kind of want it to be where maybe it's to really gimp this, but it would kind of, like, you know, I have an idea to gimp this, right? And it is that if you do a throw or a combo while you're in the drive rush penalty area, it doesn't start regenning, right? But at the same time, this would, for example, kill combos that start with the drive rush, right? Because then, you know, it wouldn't regen anymore. at all. But at the same time, is that a problem? I'm not too sure. So that's the kind of, I'm throwing that out. I don't necessarily want it, but it is an idea. So I'll remove this. And lastly, we come across damage, right? This game's damage is really, really high, and it's frustratingly so, in my opinion. Um, and I say just reduce it, or you know, a different point of view is just make everyone's HP higher, right? Um, either or, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. The nice thing about having most of the cast at 10,000 health is that obviously, you can 100%, like it's right around there, so it's really easy to calculate in your head. And I guess they could keep that. But I would say like a good 20% damage reduction across the board would be good. And even more so, supers should do less damage, especially level 3s, SC3s. This game, for most characters, most of the matches that end on round 3 basically sum up to who uses the level 3 first, right? It's just every time you have a third round, it's just 2 characters with level 3 stocked. And why is that? Because they do an absurd amount of damage. You can do any combo for at least 50% when you have level 3. And it's just so annoying. It's so boring. And even eating a reversal level 3, 40% gone for like a DP? Bro, like come on, man. Are you serious? And then characters get Oki too. It's like, bro, what the fuck? Yo, that's not good. That's not normal. That's too volatile. The game is too volatile, especially since Capcom is insisting. I mean, I don't actually know if the format is first to two, but first to two is a terrible format. That's another suggestion. That's another thing. CPT format first to three. God, please. I'm not even competing, and as a spectator, that shit is obnoxious first to two in this game. Nah, thank you. But still reduce the damage, like reduce the damage and make it first to three. Because by my god, dude, this shit is ridiculous. You know, damage tentative, number tentative, number tentative. So yeah, that's it really. I don't think I've forgot anything. Hopefully I haven't. You know, I think overall this would pretty much just nerf system mechanics, right? System mechanics in this game kind of homogenize the entire cast. I've said this already. I'll keep repeating it. I would think most, if not everyone, agrees that that is the case. You definitely have characters that are unique in what they do, like JP, you know, zoner, Gal, I guess he's a zoner. You know, Keith is a grappler. But you know, Ken, Ryu, Chun, Mai, Jerry, BJ, Cammy, they all kind of play the same. You know, Aki, you know, you have the Fireball, OD Fireball Drive Rush characters as well. It's just a lot of stuff that's, you know, very samey. And it's because the system mechanics are just so strong. You can just do this, and it's, oh, what the fuck are you gonna do about that, right? You can just do this. What the fuck can you do about that, right? Right, that's the low, yeah. And so yeah, just lowering the need for system mechanics, and you know, also removing throw loops, since that's kind of a pet peeve. And perfect parry, just in my opinion, would overall make the game more enjoyable. This obviously is not the only thing that should change, because clearly some characters are going to be more advantaged if that happens. Like zoners obviously are going to be stronger because they don't always need to rely on the drive rush usage. And if the driver regen is slower, you know, for example, someone like Guile, which has really high drive gauge damage, right? It's Guile always wins the drive gauge war. would be very obnoxious to fight. So there's definitely, you know, there needs to be a careful balancing act between the system mechanic changes and character changes. But in my opinion, this is probably, these changes, what I suggested, address all the problems that people have with this game in a somewhat reasonable way. Obviously, you know, I'm not any kind of game designer, I don't know, and I'm not a pro player either, so, you know, I might have missed something, I might have, I guess, misinterpreted some suggestions and changed them in a way that would go against the spirit of the original, you know, suggestions intent of what someone else said. But yeah, overall, I'm quite content with this list. I'll show it again on screen. And yeah, so thanks for watching. If someone actually watches this, in the comments, maybe you can throw your own suggestions, comment, and talk about this. And yeah, see ya. Hope you have a good day.